At 10:43 a.m., Russian and Chinese forces crossed into Ukrainian territory in a coordinated strike, confident they would overwhelm defenses in minutes. By 11 o'clock, their front line was gone. 16 minutes. That was all it took for Ukraine to dismantle the combined assault of two major powers. No warnings, no drawn-out battle. Just a precise, devastating response that neither Moscow nor Beijing saw coming. This is the untold story, how a hidden battle plan and advanced weapons systems turned what should have been a crushing invasion into a humiliating retreat. What exactly happened in those 16 minutes? And what secret capability allowed Ukraine to deliver such a decisive blow? If you value clear-eyed military analysis, like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments, because this is one engagement the world will study for decades. The first alarms rang at 10:42 a.m., a radar flash showing multiple inbound formations from both east and south. Within 60 seconds, Ukraine's joint command confirmed the nightmare. Russian armor columns and Chinese aerial drones crossing the border in synchronized waves. The plan was obvious: overwhelm, encircle, and claim a lightning victory before NATO could react. Inside the hardened command bunker near Dnipro, Ukrainian commanders had seconds to act. Every choice carried risk. Counter too soon, and they would expose their own positions. Wait too long, and the front could collapse. What would you do? Commit your best systems instantly, or hold them back for the perfect strike? 10:43 a.m. First contact. The invasion began with a thunderous mix of artillery salvos and swarm drone attacks. Russian BM-30 Smerch rocket launchers unleashed a curtain of fire toward Ukrainian forward positions, while Chinese Wing-Loom 2 drones streaked overhead, targeting radar and communication nodes. The objective was clear blind Ukraine before the main armored thrust could arrive. But Ukraine had anticipated this exact opening move. Within seconds, mobile radar units activated in dispersed locations, feeding targeting data to NASAMS and IRIS-T air defense batteries. The first wave of drones met a wall of interceptors, detonating in mid-air before reaching their targets. 10:45 a.m. The armored spearhead. From the east, a column of Russian T-90M main battle tanks advanced in tight formation, screened by BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicles. From the south, Chinese VN-20 armored personnel carriers pushed toward a critical road junction that linked three Ukrainian cities. It was a classic pincer movement, but Ukraine's reconnaissance drones had already mapped the approach routes hours earlier. Instead of confronting the armor head-on, Ukrainian forces lured the spearhead into pre-surveyed kill zones. M142 HIMARS batteries, hidden under camouflage netting, unleashed precision-guided rockets. Within 45 seconds, the lead Russian tanks were engulfed in fireballs, forcing the formation to scatter. 10:48 a.m. Airspace heats up. Sensing the ground push was slowing, Chinese J-10C fighter jets entered Ukrainian airspace, attempting to secure air superiority. They were met by Ukrainian Su-27 armed with American-supplied AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles. Dogfights erupted at altitudes above 20,000 feet, while Patriot missile batteries engaged low-flying aircraft, attempting to slip under radar coverage. One J-10C managed to launch a pair of precision bombs toward a Ukrainian logistics hub, but seconds before impact, a Patriot interceptor exploded in its path. The shockwave rippled across the fields, and the supply depot remained intact. 10:50 a.m. The hidden layer activates. Unknown to both Russia and China, Ukraine had been quietly integrating a new, classified electronic warfare system provided through NATO channels. Codenamed Iron Veil, it could scramble targeting systems and sever drone control links within a 30-mile radius. At precisely 10:50 a.m., Iron Veil activated. Almost instantly, Chinese drones began circling aimlessly, their operators cut off. Russian precision missiles veered off course, slamming into empty fields. The invasion's carefully choreographed timing began to unravel. 10:52 a.m. Counterstrike coordination. With enemy formations disoriented, Ukraine shifted from defense to rapid counteroffensive. Artillery brigades fired GPS-guided Excalibur shells at retreating armor. Bayraktar TB2 drones, previously kept at high altitude, swooped down to hit exposed fuel trucks and mobile command posts. In one strike captured by reconnaissance feeds, A Russian command vehicle believed to house a senior field officer was obliterated. Without centralized orders, forward units began halting, unsure of the larger plan. 10:54 a.m., the southern collapse. On the southern front, Chinese mechanized units pushing toward the road junction found themselves trapped. Ukrainian engineers had pre-placed remotely detonated charges under key bridges. At 10:54 a.m., those charges went off, dropping spans into the river below. The Chinese column was now cut off from resupply and retreat. Ukraine's Stugna-P anti-tank missile teams picked off vehicles one by one. Smoke and confusion filled the valley, while intercepted Chinese communications revealed a breakdown in unit cohesion. 10:57 a.m. Strategic airstrike. The final blow came when Ukraine's long-range strike aircraft launched Storm Shadow cruise missiles at Russian artillery positions just across the border. These batteries had been the backbone of the initial assault, providing cover for advancing troops. With them gone, the invasion lost its artillery shield, leaving the attackers fully exposed. 11 o'clock a.m., silence on the front. 16 minutes after the first crossing, Ukrainian radar screens showed no advancing formations, only retreating blips. What had begun as a two-pronged show of overwhelming force ended as a fractured withdrawal, with damaged armor and downed aircraft marking the path back. Geopolitical ripple. News of the failed strike spread faster than the attackers' retreat. NATO intelligence agencies, initially bracing for a prolonged conflict, were now reviewing hours of intercepted communications in disbelief. Media outlets scrambled to confirm what they were hearing. Ukraine had not just survived, it had won, decisively in record time. But victory brought new questions. How much of this success was Ukrainian innovation, and how much relied on undisclosed NATO assistance? Would Russia and China dare to try again, or would this embarrassment deter them indefinitely? And for you, the viewer, here is the question. Was this simply the triumph of a prepared defender, or the first glimpse of a new era of warfare where speed and precision crush brute force? If you believe the world needs more clear, unfiltered analysis of battles that will shape our future, hit like, subscribe, and share your take in the comments. Your insight keeps this channel sharp, engaged, and ready for the next breaking moment. 11:01 a.m. The pursuit decision. The Ukrainian General Staff faced a critical choice. Press the retreating forces into foreign territory or hold the defensive line. Political pressure urged restraint. NATO advisors warned that pursuing beyond Ukraine's borders could trigger unpredictable escalation. Yet, Ukrainian field commanders argued that letting the attackers regroup would invite another strike. In a rare show of speed, the decision came in under 2 minutes. Pursue, but within a 20-kilometer buffer inside Ukraine. This allowed maximum damage to the retreating forces without risking a wider war. 11:03 a.m. The hunter-killer teams deploy. Ukrainian rapid reaction units on quad bikes and light armored vehicles surged forward. Each team carried Javelin missiles, man-portable air defense systems, and portable drone controllers. The aim was to harass the retreating armor columns, forcing them to abandon damaged vehicles and leave critical supplies behind. From the tree line near Zolokiv, a two-man Stinger team locked onto a low-flying Chinese Z-10 attack helicopter, providing cover for its retreating ground units. The missile streaked skyward. Striking the tail rotor, the aircraft spun violently before crashing into an open field. 11:06 a.m. Electronic warfare sweep. Iron Veil pulsed again. This time, its effect was amplified by coordinated cyber attacks on satellite uplinks suspected to be feeding Russian and Chinese battlefield data. For a brief but critical 90 seconds, the attackers lost situational awareness. Surveillance satellites failed to refresh imagery, encrypted channels went dead, and entire battalions found themselves navigating without GPS. Ukrainian units exploited the blackout, flanking disoriented enemy vehicles and using short-range artillery to box them into choke points. 11:09 a.m. Precision fires in the north. Near the northern axis, Russian troops attempted to regroup behind a ridgeline, believing they were out of Ukrainian artillery range. They were wrong. M777 howitzers, fitted with extended-range Excalibur rounds, began striking from over 30 kilometers away. Each round landed within meters of its target, destroying logistics, trucks, and cutting off fuel to armored spearheads. A captured Russian radio transmission revealed desperation. "We have no fuel, no orders, and no air cover." 11:12 a.m. Drone ambush at the river crossing. Retreating Chinese VN-20, APCs attempted to cross a shallow river where the main bridge had already been destroyed. Ukrainian FPV drones, each carrying small explosive payloads, targeted the lead vehicles. One by one, the armored personnel carriers were immobilized in the water, blocking the crossing for everyone behind. The rest of the convoy was forced to abandon the route and scatter into open farmland, a fatal mistake. From high altitude, Bayraktar TB2 2nd marked their positions for artillery. Within minutes, smoke and flame covered the horizon. 11:15 a.m. Air denial. Ukraine's Air Command authorized a final sweep by MiG-29 2nd, armed with HIMARS anti-radiation missiles, to suppress any surviving air defense units on the enemy side. Several Russian Buk systems that had been repositioning to cover the retreat were destroyed before they could fire a shot. Without these, any hope of launching a counter-air mission vanished. At the same time, NATO early warning aircraft monitoring from Polish airspace relayed updated tracks to Ukrainian command, ensuring there would be no surprise airstrikes in retaliation. 11:17 a.m. Collapse of the Eastern Push.
Encouraged themselves to build that
primarily
strength.
Russian armor, reached a point of no return. Nearly a third of its combat vehicles were disabled. Forward momentum had been replaced by chaotic retreat. Some units even abandoned functioning equipment to move faster on foot. Intercepted comms confirmed that morale had collapsed. One Russian officer was heard saying, "If we stop, we die here. If we go forward, we die there. We are finished." 11:20 a.m. Last attempted stand. At a crossroads 10 kilometers inside Ukrainian territory, a mixed Russian-Chinese rearguard set up a defensive line to buy time for their main force to escape. They deployed portable air defense launchers, anti-tank guided missiles, and heavy machine guns. For 7 minutes, they held off Ukrainian advances. But once HIMARS strike coordinates were relayed, the position ceased to exist. Precision rockets shattered the defense, leaving the escape route exposed. 11:27 a.m. The final sweep. The last organized enemy vehicles crossed back over the border under cover of smoke screens. Ukrainian artillery halted fire at the preset limit of engagement. Recon drones stayed airborne, documenting the full extent of the destruction for both military review and international media. By 11:29 a.m., the battle was over. The 16-minute annihilation had turned into a 46-minute rout, with Ukrainian forces in firm control of every inch of contested ground. Aftermath in the command bunker. When the reports came in, there was no celebration, only quiet acknowledgement of what had been achieved. The commanders knew the strategic message had been sent. Ukraine could defeat not just one aggressor, but two, if they acted in unison. And now the world was watching. NATO capitals lit up with urgent cables. Intelligence agencies pored over the data, and political leaders began calculating how this sudden shift in the balance might change everything from defense budgets to diplomatic alignments. What would you have done if you were in command? Would you have stopped at the border or sent the enemy a harsher message by pushing further? 11:34 a.m. An unexpected signal. Just as Ukrainian units began pulling back to defensive positions, a strange series of encrypted transmissions lit up NATO monitoring stations. The origin was traced not to Russian or Chinese headquarters, but to a shadowed frequency known to be used only for strategic-level coordination between the two nations. Within minutes, satellites detected the launch of high-altitude hypersonic glide vehicles from deep inside Russian territory. The target trajectory pointed not at Ukraine's front lines, but at an undisclosed facility in western Ukraine, a site believed to host experimental NATO integration systems, possibly including the Iron Veil unit. 11:37 a.m. The clock starts again. Ukraine's air defense network had just minutes to respond. Patriot batteries rotated to face the new threat, but hypersonics fly too fast for conventional interception. This was where a card no one had publicly acknowledged came into play: a NATO-deployed laser-based air defense prototype, codenamed Sky Spear, stationed secretly near Lviv. 11:39 a.m. The reveal. For months, the existence of Sky Spear had been speculation in defense circles, dismissed as wishful thinking. Now, it was about to be tested in combat for the first time. Targeting data from U.S. Space Force satellites fed directly into its fire control system. The first hypersonic streak appeared on the sensors. A beam of concentrated energy lashed out across the sky. In less than 2 seconds, the incoming missile disintegrated, its debris burning up before it could strike. 2 more followed, both met the same fate. 11:42 a.m. Panic on the other side. Intercepted chatter from Russian and Chinese operators revealed shock and confusion. They had committed their most advanced strike capability, only to watch it vanish in mid-air. It was a devastating blow to their confidence, and worse, it meant NATO possessed an operational defense against one of the most feared weapons in modern arsenals. 11:45 a.m. The political shockwave. The Ukrainian government immediately went on a controlled media offensive, not boasting about Sky Spear, but releasing carefully edited footage of the failed hypersonic strike. The message was clear without being direct. Ukraine, backed by NATO's most secret technologies, could repel even next-generation threats. This single event changed the strategic equation overnight. Nations previously hesitant to support Ukraine began rethinking their positions. Defense analysts across the globe rewrote assessments of the balance of power in Eastern Europe, the unasked question. Yet, beneath the celebration, a quiet question lingered in the minds of senior military planners. If Russia and China were willing to escalate to hypersonic strikes after a failed incursion, what might they try next? Would cyber warfare or even orbital assets come into play? And for you, the viewer was revealing Sky Spear worth the deterrence it provided? Or did it expose too much, too soon? The battle's outcome was more than a tactical victory. It was a seismic shift in modern warfare's strategic focus. In less than an hour, Ukraine had not only repelled a coordinated Russian-Chinese invasion attempt, but had also demonstrated the ability to integrate NATO's most advanced capabilities into its national defense. Military consequences. From a purely operational perspective, the 16-minute annihilation validated 3 critical principles of modern combat. Integrated defense layers: air, land, cyber, and electronic warfare were coordinated in real time, closing every gap in Ukraine's defenses. Speed over mass. The battle proved that rapid response and precision strikes could neutralize numerically superior forces before they could establish momentum. Strategic deception. By hiding Iron Veil and Sky Spear until the decisive moment, Ukraine achieved maximum psychological shock against the aggressors. The enemy's failure was compounded by the loss of advanced equipment, which NATO intelligence is now studying for vulnerabilities. This will further weaken Russia and China's ability to project power in the region. Political and geopolitical fallout. Globally, the message was unmistakable. Ukraine could not be taken quickly, not even by a joint superpower assault. NATO's credibility surged, with member states reassured that collective defense commitments were more than symbolic. Neutral nations took note, especially those wary of regional hegemons, and some began quietly exploring defense cooperation agreements with NATO members. For Russia and China, the defeat was not only military but reputational. Their combined inability to achieve a breakthrough despite surprise, scale, and coordination undermined propaganda narratives of inevitable dominance. This embarrassment will likely push both to invest heavily in countermeasures against NATO's new defensive technologies, potentially accelerating a new arms race. The risk factor. Yet, this victory carries hidden risks. By revealing Sky Spear, NATO may have lost the advantage of secrecy. Adversaries now know such a system exists and will adapt accordingly. Furthermore, the escalation to hypersonic strikes shows that future confrontations could leap straight to high-intensity exchanges, leaving little room for diplomatic de-escalation. The strategic balance has shifted, but in warfare, every shift invites a response. The question is whether deterrence will hold, or if this was just the opening act of a far larger conflict. The 16-minute victory will be studied in military academies for decades, not for its length, but for what it revealed about the future of war. In less time than a standard combat briefing, Ukraine's defenders dismantled a joint Russian-Chinese assault, exposed weaknesses in 2 of the world's largest militaries, and forced adversaries to rethink their most advanced strike doctrine. But behind the celebration lies a sobering truth. This was not a triumph born solely from courage or technology. It was the result of years of preparation, disciplined coordination, and the will to act decisively when the moment arrived. The lesson is clear. Nations that invest in readiness before the first shot is fired can decide the outcome before the enemy even understands the battlefield. A message for the West. For NATO and its partners, the operation proved that collective defense is more than a treaty clause. When advanced systems, shared intelligence, and trained operators converge, the result is not just deterrence, it is dominance. But dominance must never be mistaken for invulnerability. The speed of escalation in this battle, from ground incursions to hypersonic strikes, shows how quickly modern conflict can reach existential stakes. A warning for the future. Russia and China may have retreated, but they will not forget. Their next move could bypass traditional battlefields, entirely striking through cyber warfare, targeting space-based infrastructure, or seeking to undermine alliances through political pressure. The West must prepare for a war that is fought on multiple fronts, both seen and unseen. For Ukraine, this victory is a testament to national resilience. It is a signal to every citizen that their sacrifices matter, and that their sovereignty is worth defending at any cost. But it is also a reminder that survival today does not guarantee safety tomorrow. The price of peace will be constant vigilance, and for you, the viewer, the question remains. What role should nations and individuals play in preserving the fragile balance that keeps wars short and peace long? Should deterrence be backed by overwhelming force, or by diplomacy and restraint? Strength deters chaos. Peace demands power. And power must be guided by wisdom. If you believe these stories must be told without filters, without propaganda, grounded in truth and analysis, then join this mission. Like this video, subscribe for the next deep dive, and share your perspective in the comments. Because the conversation on defense and deterrence belongs to all of us. History is being written in real time. Let us make sure we understand it before it repeats.